People always ask how I balance my family life with 400 shows a year. I'm just doing what I love with the people I love. It's my magic life.
I like Wes Iseli. I like everything about him.
All right, we are back, and this week we have Jim Vines. This guy reached out to us, and I'm like, yeah, Jim, I put him on the back burner because I don't know him that well. And I'm like, all right, Jim, I got some other people lined up, but I'm definitely going to get you. I saw your Fool Us thing. I love it. Let's do it. Broadway Magic Hour is rocking and rolling. Everybody help us welcome Jim Vines. What's up, buddy? How are you?
Hey, everybody. I'm doing great. How are you, man?
Jim, sorry this took so long, man. Like I said, I didn't know you, and I'm like, I got these people that I do know. That's an easier podcast for me. Getting somebody I don't know that well, but now that I've seen some of your magic, I'm like, I know this dude.
Awesome.
This will be easy.
I love it. It's a small world. It's a small world. So even if you don't know somebody, you go back and look and you say, oh, yeah, I'm familiar with that, or I've seen this before. So that's always cool. You know, I love the fact we're like a fraternity / sorority worldwide. I love it.
That's what people ask me all the time. Do you know this guy? Give me some more information on him. I probably do. It's a smaller world than you think. Yeah, yeah. If I don't know him, I know his best friend in magic. Right.
Well, it's funny, if you're traveling anywhere in the world and you just put out a message on whatever town you're in, their Facebook group for their magic club or whatever, you're already connected with a whole community of people who are ready to let you sleep on the sofa, take you out to dinner. Want to do whatever, hang out, swap magic secrets. It's just amazing. I love it so much.
That's awesome, man. Well, let's get into this thing, man. I got like 10 pages of notes. I've been on the internet all day long looking over old podcasts that you've done, old interviews you've done, all kinds of stuff. Sounds like your intro into magic was a guy pulled a coin out from behind my ear. I feel like yours is similar. What was your introduction to magic?
It was quite similar to that. Basically, when I was in probably the seventh grade, at school one day, one of my friends just happened to casually mention, oh, I'm a magician. And I'm thinking, I didn't know this guy too well, but I knew him well enough to be surprised by that. And of course, you don't hear that every single day when you're in seventh grade. So I asked him, of course, to do a trick, and he wouldn't do one. So I asked him a couple of more times in the week, and he never would do it. But the following week, we were in line at lunch, and he says, Jim, I forgot my milk money today. Do you have a quarter I can borrow? I'm like, sure, but you got to do a magic trick. So he takes the quarter, vanishes it right in front of my eyes, both sleeves, short sleeves, no tricky boxes, no beautiful assistant, no spotlights, no fog. It was just pure sleight of hand magic up close. And it felt like the floor dropped out from under me. I was so blown away. I loved it so much. And of course, he wouldn't teach me. So I went to the library, and at my school library, I got really, really lucky because they had the Amateur Magician's Handbook by Henry Hay. And I don't know if you guys have read that book, but to me, it's still the best magic book ever written because it takes you from knowing nothing all the way through some of the most advanced, front and back palm stuff, mentalism stuff, grand illusions. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's just such a great book. And I felt like if I hadn't happened upon that book, we wouldn't be having this conversation today, because most magic books, for young people in libraries are not so hot. But that one is so good. But yeah, the magic bug bit, what can I say? You know how it is. That happens and you're hooked.
I found that book when I was 25 years old. I think I was 25 years old. You were with me at the show. So what was that?
Older.
So I was 30?
Yeah.
And a magician turned me on to a mind reading trick that I immediately put in my big show. And I was like, this is awesome, because I was taught by this guy this trick, and I have my own little twists and turns on it from what he taught me. I was so proud of it. I'm doing a show, and I look behind me, and we're waiting for the audience to come in at somebody's library in their big mansion. And I look on the shelf, and they had a magic book, and I pulled it off, and it was daggone Henry Hayes, and I flipped through it. I wasn't doing it in that show, but that is the trick that I'm doing in my illusion show that I was so proud of. And I was like, this is a good book. This is too good to have in a layman's home. So I had to go out and buy one. Yeah.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
Talking about looking up on a shelf and seeing a magic book and having like something amazing happen. It reminds me I'd already gotten into magic. I was a teenager. My parents were not that excited about me being into magic. They had gotten me a guitar. My mom is a great piano player. She wanted me to learn the guitar. They were sending me to this guy's house to learn guitar lessons, and I never would practice. I really didn't want to learn the guitar. But I'm sitting in his house one day taking my guitar lesson, and he gets up for a minute to go use the phone or something. And I happened to look up on his bookshelf, and there was a copy of Modern Magic by Professor Hoffman on his bookshelf. And I'm looking at that, and I'm thinking, you don't just randomly have a copy of that book. So he comes back in, and I asked him about it. He goes, yeah, I was a professional magician for about 15 years. And I was like, whoa. And I happened to have a $50, and I started doing some of my sleights, and he's like blown away because I was really good at magic, but I was terrible at the guitar. So now he was suddenly thinking, oh, this kid is into magic. That's what he's about. And so he let me borrow the book because I'd never read it. And then he mentioned, as I was leaving that day, he goes, listen, I have an entire, attic full of professional magic equipment that, I mean, it basically, Wes, looks like that wall behind you there, right? And he goes, I don't want this stuff anymore. I'll sell it to you for almost nothing. And I was like, oh my gosh, I would love it. So he says, come back tonight. I brought my parents back later that night, and he had filled up his entire living room with all this stuff. There was feather flowers, a big chain escape. There was a Super X levitation, hippity hop rabbits, all this stuff. You can have a whole career out of the stuff that he had in that living room. And it really got me started with a lot of apparatus magic, because at that point I was just doing sleight of hand. As you know how expensive, you go into a magic shop and these things are like, for a kid, you're just like, it's impossibly expensive. But to suddenly have to stumble upon a big trove like that, that's another thing. It'll change your life,
Isn't it funny when you're taking lessons and you're just bumbling around? They just assume you're an idiot. And then you show them your real skill that you do have, and they're like, this guy is good.
Yeah.
I've been there. I was studying with Rocco, and Rocco's like, this guy can't get anything. No, I can't get Slidini down at 28 years old,
Right.
But I know magic. Let me show you what I can do. And he was like, all right, I like him.
Yeah,
I thought I was
that's
an
amazing.
idiot when I first got there because I was just asking questions. I was there to learn, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
taking guitar class, what's a D chord? You don't know a D chord? Come on.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so-
I never would practice. I would go home and I would just put the guitar away and just practice magic all week, and then be embarrassed to go in there trying to. So he started. Basically we kind of surreptitiously changed it into magic classes. I would go over and show him what I'd been working on. He would give me notes, because he wasn't an expert sleight of hand guy by any means, but he knew enough magic to find what was wrong. And this is like, now everybody just has an iPhone and you just set it up and do it and rewatch it yourself. But back then you're looking in a mirror, but to have a real person watch and critique, man, that's super important, So anyway, you talking about something being up on the shelf reminded me of that for some reason.
No, yeah, absolutely. That's So, do you remember the deal you got?
Excuse me?
Do you remember how much you had to pay for all that stuff?
Oh, it was so cheap. It was like $100 for the entire room full of stuff. I mean, he was literally
He
giving
gave
it to me. He was
Yeah.
just literally giving it to me. This would have been in, I don't know, maybe 1986. So that'd be like the equivalent of like $500 now, which is still, I mean, it was easily,
Super X
5
was
times the amount of that. It was just, he
Yes.
was just giving it away. So I was super, super thrilled to have it all.
the Super X alone, $100. That's easy.
Oh my God. I've made so much money with the Super X, and he had one of these, what was it called? A Grant's double load pagoda that I would produce a rabbit out of, in my kids shows and stuff. And I just did all kinds of, had an amazing show just from that stuff he had. So it was awesome.
That's great. Did you do kids' birthday parties?
Oh yes, I did many, and you really learn so much doing that. I mean, there's no shortcut around that part of your career, because you learn to keep the show within a certain length, to have a really big ending. This is what was also really funny about that was I remember one of my mentors had said at the Magic Club had said, if you're working in a new trick, put it in the middle of your show, because that way you're not trying to close with something brand new. It's put it in the middle of your show. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So when I decided to introduce a rabbit to my kids show, I produced it in the middle of the show, which now I look back and I'm like, because of course they all come running up and they want to pet the rabbit. And the mom is back there going, no, I think he's going to do some more. Oh, I'd only done 15 minutes by this point. She's like, no, everybody sit down. I think he's going to do some more. And for the rest of the show, they all, where's the rabbit? Where's the rabbit? You know, so I learned that's the one exception. If you got to put in a rabbit correctly, do that at the end, even if it's the first time.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. He was right, though. He was right. Put new stuff in the middle, but not a finale trick. Right?
Not that. Right. Exactly. Right. If you're doing your Azrael levitation, that kind of has to close it no matter what.
So, here, hold on. So your friend that taught you that coin trick, did you ever reconnect him and told him that you got started in magic?
I did. You know, I was in magic for a long time, all the way up through. I even studied theater in college because I really loved magic. But also during college, I got really interested in writing plays, writing screenplays, and stuff like that. And so once I got out of college, I decided I really didn't want magic. Also, was at an all-time low in terms of public interest at that point. It was very, not right now. Right now, magic is the most popular thing in the world, you know.
What year is this?
This would have been 1990.
Okay, yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I really don't want to do magic. I didn't want to do like birthday parties and stuff like that for a career. So I became a literary agent, represented a lot of authors. Still stayed a little interested in magic, would do close-up magic for my friends and just sort of, jam and stuff like that. But around 2004 or 5, the magic bug bit again in a big way. And it was funny because I was talking to Eugene Berger once, and I was like, I took like this 14-year basically hiatus from magic. And Eugene goes, I did the same thing, Jim. I'm like, what? And he apparently, when he got out of divinity school, he went and worked. He worked in some city agency in Chicago for a long time. And then finally was like, I can't do this anymore. I have to go and do magic, And so he says, I call that my wandering in the wilderness period, So it happens to some people. But once I got back into magic very seriously and started competing and stuff like that, I did reach out to my friend Dwayne that I had grown up with, and and he was very excited to hear from me. We had a long conversation. He doesn't do magic anymore, but it's that's the other thing about magic is once you've shared that with someone in your life, reconnecting with them just becomes like kind of a natural thing, and you talk about all kinds of other stuff. It doesn't have to just be magic, but magic really bonds people, So there's something about it.
100%. So you helped start Montgomery's first magic club when you were still young.
Yeah, exactly. I was, there was one day, I didn't know any magicians. This was before the internet, so you're kind of like, especially in a place like Alabama, you're kind of like isolated. There were no magic stores or anything around, no magic shops. But one day in the local newspaper, in the like lifestyle section, on the front cover of that section was this full color picture of a guy wearing a tuxedo, and he had a big flapping white dove on his hand and a silk. And I immediately knew it was a story about a magician. I read the whole thing. His name is Gary Ledbetter. He's still a dear friend of mine. And he was 6 or 7 years older than me. I was like 15 at the time. Maybe he was 20 or 21. But I immediately reached out to him, and we, started doing card tricks together, started learning, started sharing magic back and forth. And he also knew another guy who was a magician in town. So the three of us kind of created this club. And before we knew it, we had 15 or 16 members, which was pretty amazing for a town of that size. We'd have some people would drive 60 or 80 miles to come to the club meetings. We became an IBM ring, and we would do, shows at the local mall. We would do all kinds, we just did all the stuff that magic clubs do. We put ourselves in shows because we didn't, if you don't have anywhere else to perform, you build a show together with your club mates and you go out and do it, right? So I love those guys. I'm still in touch with a lot of them. Some of them have disappeared and some of them have passed, but a lot of them are still around, and it's great to hang out with them, talk to them on the phone and stuff.
So it said in your press stuff that you had doves in your early act, wine glasses, and lit torches.
Oh yeah.
I
Dude,
mean,
where did you find that stuff? That's
that's
yeah, I definitely did. I competed with a lot of that stuff when I was a teenager. I really went through my Lance Burton phase
okay.
where I never like copied Lance's style because I respected him too much, to do something like that. I had my own kind of style, my own kind of music, which I used more like very upbeat electronic jazz. Jean-Luc Ponty, I don't know if you're familiar with his work, stuff like that. I didn't go the whole classical route, but I was just watched, back in those days. I had a videotape of Lance on the Johnny Carson show, New Year's Eve, 1981, which to this day I still think is the greatest magic act of all time. I mean, I've seen Cardini, beautiful act, but I'm sorry, Lance Burton is to me just like if a Martian came down to Earth and said, "Show me what magic is," I would take him to that video and say, "That's it." Um, but I'm really happy to be able to call Lance a friend now. I met him at Jeff McBride's mystery school one time. He came and talked to us there, and when I was preparing my act for North American Championship and for FISM, Lance actually gave me some notes. He saw the act when I was competing at IBM one year, and I fortunately won. But he afterwards messaged me on Facebook and said, "Hey, I've got some ideas for you if you'd like to talk about it." I'm like, "Really? Okay, sure." And he gave me just a few little beautiful pointers that I was so blown away after I talked to him. I said to my wife, it's like Lance is one of those people who can say in 5 words what might take someone else, a year to get to. It's just sort of like, you know, do this, and you're just like, oh, it just makes so much sense. He doesn't even have to tell you why. It's just like, do this, and when you think about it, you're like, of course. But anyway, I watched his act so many times with the doves, and that was also really intimidating when you're doing in the close-up contest. You look out there and you see Lance Burton sitting next to Jeff McBride, and you're like, oh my God, heroes. They're watching me. I watched them a million times. Now they're going to watch me once. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, I did a lot of competition. Did you ever compete, Wes? Did you ever do a lot of magic competitions?
I didn't go to a lot of magic conventions because I'm always working.
Right.
I'm always on the road. There was MAES, the Magicians Alliance of Eastern States, that I love.
Yep.
And I always lost. It's just one of those things. I don't know what it is.
Well, see, hold on, but
Several
you're telling me
times
you're
we did
working so much, which probably means you did not develop a contest act for you were probably doing your regular working material.
100%.
And
a
for
lot
a
of times we
contest,
performed on that stage, and people said, "Sit up front. You're going to be getting awards all night long. Don't come from the back. Sit up front. Sit next to. Will you go out to lunch with us? Your act was amazing. It was great. It was this. It was that." But I did not have a competition 8-minute act.
right?
I never did that. I just picked stuff from my show that I was doing
Yep.
that I didn't have to think about because I've done it 1,000 times.
Exactly.
Then I can just do it. And then you're using their microphones, and it's clicking in and clicking out. The lights are going in and out. It's not my stage. And
Right,
that also
right.
throws me off because it's not my stuff. That's not my microphone. It's hitting me in a different place. So I'm in my head thinking about that, or it's falling off. I feel the pack falling.
Exactly.
Things like that throw me off. I don't like it. I like my stuff.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And you certainly don't want to try to. I've gone in venues before with my own mic and stuff and try to like patch it into their system. It's way better just to use whatever they have, even if it's falling off and hitting you in the face. Because if you're trying to patch something into their system and there's something doesn't agree, it's like, oh boy, this is not going to be fun. But yeah, the first time I entered a magic competition, I went with stuff that I would do table hopping, which killed, for lay people, it just absolutely killed. And I knew the routine was structured so well, and it was all. But the next guy comes up, and he's doing all this stuff, with sleeving and pulls, and he's got 19 loads under the back of his coat, and black art, and all this stuff. And it's like, you can only view it from one angle, or else it looks horrible. And it's like, well, that's what we want to see in a contest. Is something that is super. Special, just super like special, created just for that. It's sort of almost like a different form of magic in a way.
It's totally different. Yeah. And that's not what I do because we're doing 5 shows on a Saturday I don't have time
Exactly.
to set up 90 loads.
Right.
Right.
I just don't. Yeah.
Well, so the funny thing was, though, usually with these competition acts, you end up with someone who is not able to perform it in a lot of places before they get out there and do it on the competition stage. And I realized that that would be, a real, potentially a big pitfall. So I found so the act I did on Penn Teller is the one that I did in my competition years. And I would go down to Coney Island. There was a show down there called Magic at Coney, and I would be the opening act. And I would do this FISM act. It would take 45 minutes to set up, 7 minutes to perform, and then another 45 minutes to pack it up. And it was so much effort to do it. But it was so important to get it out in front of a real audience week after week after week and find those moments where they're reacting and find those moments where they're not reacting and fix that and do all and everything's perfectly timed to the music. And I would get to these things like there was one moment where I had this moment which I thought was so incredible where you have a coin in each hand and suddenly you just go and they're gone. And none of this, none of this sleep, lapping stuff, but just like boom, just gone. And no response for anybody. And I thought, okay, well, maybe, and I do it a few more weeks, still no response. And I'm thinking, I think it's maybe because it's like, whoa, what just happened? And they're just not even going to clap. And I'm like, that's okay. But I wanted a moment there, a big, like, applause, like crazy moment there. So I realized what it would take is like, and have confetti blow out, right? But in this act, I'm never, I'm trying not to like, I never drop the hand into the lap. There's no time to really steal a load. So basically this confetti load has to be in place for a long time before it happens. And, to create that little moment, takes like a few months of like engineering, working on it, figuring it out, trying this, trying that, trying the other thing. And then when you finally do it and you hear, whoa, you're like, okay, great, that moment. But you think about, how much goes into that. I kind of started eventually thinking that what a FISM act really is, what it really allows somebody to do is to train to do a full evening show, but in miniature. Because in your show, you're talking about with your mic and your mic pad, every single detail is completely sorted. And there's no, wait, where did I put this silk? Is it over here tonight or is it over there? No, it's in the exact same place. It's folded the exact same way. Every single time. And I think a lot of performers who don't have the kind of experience that you have, they don't really think about that too much. And you see them looking for stuff on stage. But in a competition act, it's the same way. But it's in miniature. You have to know where. I would have the exact same number of confetti pieces, 14 confetti pieces cut in a certain exact way so that I knew exactly what it was going to do, And so that's part of it. I think that's part of the reason people do the contests as well, to kind of get that, to get that experience.
People have no idea when you reach for something, if it takes you 2 beats to get it, it messes me up. It's like, I want it right there. We do an outside show, and if the wind is whipping, my magic wand will roll on the table. And I'm looking at the audience, and I reach for it, and I have to pat. Oh, there it is. That makes me mad, because I'm like, it's not where it's supposed to be. I'm not going to duct tape it down. I'm not going to Velcro it down, but I need it there. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
People have no idea.
Some guy sent me a magic wand that is very slightly not round. It's like, it's almost like square. Have you seen these where it's square and it just kind of lays there? He was saying it's for buskers, because I guess it's the same thing. Where if the ground is not exactly level or if the wind is blowing, it'll just roll off. But you put this wand down, your table could be like this, and you put the wand down, it just stays right there because
That's awesome.
It looks round. When you're holding it, you can't tell that it's slightly square. It's a very interesting thing. But thought I would mention that because maybe it's with the rolling, maybe it's something you want to look for.
If that fixes one little temper tantrum I have off stage afterwards.
Yeah.
Because I don't temper tantrum about that, like to her, like I would, like if something went wrong. But that is, to me, that show wasn't right. That show, and nobody noticed. But for me,
nobody noticed. Exactly.
So behind the scenes, we have magician and non-magician listeners watching the show, right? So I don't want to go too far.
Right.
But to have Fool Us people carry your stage out, that would also bother me. Because of all your setup and all your stuff. How did you deal with that?
Dude, that bothered me so much because in my act, there's 35 magic effects in 5 minutes. The act is supposed to be 6 minutes, but when they told me you can only do 5 minutes, they were like, you have to take stuff out. I'm like, oh my God, no. I can't take anything out because every single thing is layered on top of everything else. You know, everything connects. It's like if you've ever written a poem, you try to take one line out. Well, now none of it works because it all depends on everything else. So I was talking to my music guy about this, and I was like, because I have an original piece of music that was composed just for the act, and I said, you know, how can we even edit, you know, a minute out? And he goes, I think I have a solution. I'm like, what? He goes, I'm going to speed it up. I'm going to take that music file and I'm going to compress it and speed it up to 5 minutes. And then you just try it and see what happens. And I'm like, first of all, I was like, there's no way. And I said, secondly, it'll sound like the Chipmunks. He goes, no. I can compress it and then I can lower the pitch back to where it is properly. Just try it. So I'm like, all right. So he sends me the file and I boom, 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 boom. I was like, oh my God, it's better. I mean, I couldn't believe it because there were moments where instead of pausing for, 2 seconds, you pause for 1 second. And the whole thing just felt like it had more momentum or something to me. And I was super excited about that. And I called Mike Close because I had sort of expressed to him, I'm a little concerned about this. And I told him, I was like, dude, we're fine. I mean, it's better. That's the thing about going on Fool Us, too. I think a lot of magicians don't understand is you do get better when you go on there because of all that work from Michael Close, all those eyes, those expert magic eyes looking at your routine and helping you make it better. It's a polishing process, you know?
And some of them are layman behind the scenes and some of them professional behind the scenes. And you're getting both points.
Exactly. But to your point, having somebody move my table out there, because it's like, a lot going on. And I'm thinking, all right, but you do have a chance to kind of like check and make sure everything's cool before you start. But Wes, this is funny because I want to get your take on this because to me, the longest 5 seconds I've ever had in my life, and I'm talking about longer than even in the hospital waiting for my child to be born or what. I mean, I'm talking about literally the longest 5 seconds of my life. I'm sitting here at that table on the Fool Us stage and all the audience. You were there in 2020. Did they have an live audience there?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I know after COVID, they didn't for a few years, and then they went back to having an audience.
The shutdown happened on our flight home. I lost 140 shows on the flight ride home.
Oh, my God.
Everybody was elbowing while we were there. I'm used to knuckles, but everybody was elbowing because they're all from L.A. and they already had the news. They knew about this thing. We saw something on the news about China virus and Christmas time. Yeah. But Virginia, they didn't care. Nobody knew. Right. We got out there, and the producers are elbowing each other. Yeah, but we just squeaked by. Yeah.
So you had we had a live audience too, and at one point the guy with the headset, the stage manager, you hear the audience buzzing. They're all talking amongst themselves because there's like a 15-minute setup time between or 10 minutes, whatever it was between acts, and so they're not even paying attention. And Penn and Teller are talking to each other and getting the makeup and sipping their coffee, and they're not paying attention. And suddenly the stage manager walks up. You ready, Jim? I'm like, yeah. He turns around and goes, we're going in 5. And he walks off, and the whole place goes quiet. And Penn and Teller staring at you, and everybody in there staring at you, and 7 cameras staring at you. And for 5 seconds, the music hasn't started yet, and you're just waiting for the music to start. That's pretty intense.
See,
you remember this, right? Did they do this to you?
I had none of that.
No?
I was downstairs waiting, and I was behind the projection screen. So all that wait time, I didn't get to see Penn and Teller. The curtain was closed, I guess. I don't know. But I was behind the scenes.
Right.
When they said my name, I walked out.
Lucky
So I didn't have to see Penn and Teller till I walked out. Yeah.
See, maybe they either wanted to turn up the heat on me or I don't have to start seated. I could walk out. It was one of the things that Bob Fitch, I worked with him, and he said, he said, I think it would be much stronger if you start by saying something, speaking to the audience and kind of framing what this is. This was for the competition. And then you go and sit down and then you do it. And they know that your lap is not just like full of like 100 pounds of stuff, right? So, but on Fool Us, they were like, we want you to start seated. We don't want you to, because I had gotten the whole act to 5 minutes just with the music. So they certainly don't want to add another 15 seconds of talking before you do that. But anyway, no, that was the experience of a lifetime. A lot of fun, a lot of stress, but man, was it worth it. And just, they couldn't have been nicer.
Yeah, I really remember Teller kind of winking at me at the beginning when I walked out. And I'm like, wait, he's on my side. He wants me to do good. It was just a feeling I had. I didn't, because I love Penn and Teller. I've loved them my whole life. So I could feel, I was worried on the flight there that I would have that moment of Jeff McBride and Lance Burton watching me. Yes. Right? Penn and Teller watching me. They're right there. But it was just a cool calm went over me when he winked at me and he's like, let's go. Let's do that. I don't know what he said telepathically, but it was like he's on my side and he wants me to do good. And I'm like, I got it. I got this.
Can I tell you something funny I did? Because I was thinking about this before I flew out there. I was like, what's it going to be like with those guys, Penn and Teller, two of my great heroes of all time, watching me? So off of eBay, I ordered a poster of Penn and Teller and put it on the wall in my rehearsal studio. So every day when I'm rehearsing for a few weeks before I go out there, I'm looking directly at Penn and Teller. So it won't freak me out when I get there and I'm looking at Penn and Teller.
Well, that's the other thing, man. Yeah. Golly. Performing in front of them and everything is just, yeah. But once again, my act that I did on Fool Us is just a bit from my show.
Right. I know. See?
I did not have a competition piece. That's a bit from my show that I've been doing since 2015, 2014, I think we had footage back from.
Exactly. So it just all came together perfectly because it turns out it's the perfect competition piece. I mean, because that's the best magic competition in the world.
Yeah.
So, and you won that. So there you go.
Well, let's get back to you here. So it says here that you cold called the Magic Castle. Can you tell me about that experience?
Oh my gosh. Yes. So first of all, this would have been around probably around 1988. I think I was I was a youngster and I was in college and I was doing comedy clubs and I wasn't even really doing magic in my stand-up comedy, but I was doing, this is back when Gallagher was big and prop comics were big. And so I did do some sort of like visual gags that relied on magic, sort of magic techniques, but they weren't like magic tricks. Anyway, so I had managed to get booked on this little tour that went from Alabama to Louisiana to Texas and to Southern California. And maybe there was one or two other states in between. As I was getting closer and closer out there to California, I thought, you know what? I'm just going to call the Magic Castle and see what happens. So I call them up. And this was, you could not do this today because the Magic Castle is such a celebrity thing. Back then, it was really a magic club, and not taking anything away from it. I mean, it was still like so surprising to me and so amazing that they did this. But I call up and I speak to a guy named Ron White, and I called, just basically cold called the main desk and said, hey, I'm Jim Vines. I'm doing comedy clubs. I'm a magician. I'm going to be in LA doing the Laugh Factory in next week, and I'd love to stop by and do something at the castle. And they were like, hold on. Ron White gets on. We talk about stuff. We talk about people we know in common because he didn't have a video of me or anything. And he's like, all right, well, he knows all these guys and he's kind of talking the talk and he's doing the clubs. I guess we'll have him. So he said, come out here, it gave me a night, whatever it was, and told me what time and what date to be there. So I'm like, perfect. And I'm so excited. And I get there. In that day, what I would wear on stage was like an untucked shirt and parachute pants and like Converse sneakers, right? And I had this dumb little magic case that I carried with me. And I had a cab because I wasn't driving out there. What was it? I didn't drive there for some reason. Anyway, I took a cab there. As I pull up, there were people getting out of big, black limousines in coats and ties and tuxedos and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God. and I was like realizing I'm not dressed for this. I don't even know what's going on here. I don't know if they're gonna let me in. And I go up to the door, and there was a young lady working at the little desk there, the DS, and she's like, looks at me, and I'm like, I'm a performer, you know, ask Ron White, da, 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 da. And they end up taking me back, and I did like 15 minutes on the Palace. You know, they had an opening act, and then me, and then they had a couple of more acts. But man, that was like super exciting, super crazy. Never forgot it. But you know, it's a totally different Castle's a totally different experience now. You know, you have to submit videos and do all the. There's a lot of stuff involved. So you've
That's
probably worked
awesome.
the Castle a bunch of times, right?
No, I've never. We went out in 2008 on our honeymoon,
Yep.
but I've never worked it. Yeah, I'd
Well,
have to
you ought to
plan.
send them
I'd
a
have to
tape.
plan for going that way and make it work
Yeah.
because yeah, it's just one of those things. But it's on my bucket list. I'd love to do it, and
Yeah.
I
I'm
love the
sure you
castle.
will.
I love the castle. I'd love to work it. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
nothing against it. So housekeeping. I'm taking notes here as we're talking, and I'm having. So the reason I was afraid for your stuff getting on stage, for people that don't know, that is a union stage in Las Vegas. So you're not even allowed to take your own microphone off. You're not allowed to put your. Somebody else has to tuck you in and put that on. You're not allowed to touch anything. So that's that.
Exactly.
And then you said there was a lull in the early 90s in magic. I worked at a magic shop, and that's all everybody said. You're getting into magic at the wrong time. I was in high school in the 90s because of the boom of the 80s.
Yeah.
That you missed the wave.
Yeah.
So there was a big lull in the early 90s. Yeah.
But you know, I knew that there would be a way to make a living doing magic. If I really just said, I'm just going to do it, you know, there would have been a way to do it. But I had these other interests, and I felt like, you know, literally, I felt like, you know, ride the horse the direction it's going in. The world is like, you know, I mean, and I knew a bunch of authors. I knew, you know, I knew people in publishing, and it was just one thing led to another. I ended up getting into the book publishing business and having an unbelievable blast selling books to film and foreign rights and major book publishing deals. It was awesome. But you know, eventually, if the magic bug bites you, eventually you're going to come back to it. It's my belief, because it came back to
So
me.
so you went over there, but why did you leave magic? What was the pull? Money?
Why did I leave magic?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
can't
mean,
imagine anybody leaving it because it's
when
so awesome.
when I was in college, I was studying theater, and I also had a minor in English, a minor in visual arts, but in my creative writing class that I took, turned me on so much to writing. It was unbelievable. I felt like, whoa, I started thinking, you know, maybe being a storyteller is really what I need to do. And I ended up writing a novel, you know, worked on it for several years, ended up selling the film rights to Kevin Spacey, back when Kevin Spacey was cool, you know, before he got canceled. But they never made the film. It's a long story. The director that they had signed up to it passed away. And Jonathan Demme is his name, and he died in a celebrity basketball tournament. It was a long story, but anyway, that it felt like for me writing was it was something I was really good at. It was something I really loved, and I just took that path for a few years. But eventually, like I said, you know, if magic is your thing, and I would find myself like out with some friends, and I would happen to see a deck of cards, and I'd be like, oh, I can't resist, and I would just start doing card magic. And man, I mean, if people are not fully aware how much time you spent on card magic, and then you start doing, you know, ambitious cards and card to pocket and stuff like this, it really disturbs. It just really blows their mind, you know, so much. And I would have so much fun too, where I would do things like, you know, the card would go back, the signed card goes back into the deck. I palm it out, give the deck to somebody, you shuffle it, and while they're shuffling, oh, you're never gonna find my card, I would bump the guy next to me and hand him the card, and he would see what it is, and he'd be like, oh my god. And the next thing you know, he'd get up, excuse himself from the table, and nobody's paying attention, and he goes and like tucks it in a, you know, you know, a picture frame or something on the other side of the room, and like slowly wanders back and kind of gets involved watching again. And by then I'm doing all this stuff, counting down the cards and acting like it's going to be a card at any number or something. and then you can't find it, and suddenly it's like, wait a minute, look over there, and it's like 25 feet away, and it's just pandemonium.
That's
So
awesome.
I used to love doing stuff like that. I still do stuff like that, but once you're known as a magician, it's harder to get away with stuff like that, at that point.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, and coming from a literary thing, they're not expecting, like I said, if you're good at something, you can't be good at something else as well. So they know you as this
Exactly.
author.
They're totally
and
not
writer.
expecting it, right?
Yeah, golly. So at the Magic and Mystery School, Eugene Berger asked you whether you believed in magic. Why did that question affect you?
Well, yeah, because I was at that point I was doing a lot of table hopping, and this in the mid 2000s I was doing a lot of table hopping, and the kind of the way I would do it is sort of as a card cheat, or sort of as someone who knows his way around a deck of cards. There was nothing really like mysterious about it. It was just sort of like, I'm going to find your card, da, 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 da. And I'm at mystery school, and I'm talking to Eugene, and he asked me if I believe in magic. And I'm like, no, what are you talking about? Do I believe in magic? And he goes, oh, Jim, well, as magicians, if we don't believe in magic, who will? And then I was like, oh, I had to sit with that. And I thought about that a lot. And then he said something else, which I'll never forget, which he said, if I make a handkerchief disappear, and I use a secret device of some sort to make it disappear, does it matter? But it's magic in your mind when you saw it. It doesn't matter that I did a trick. It was magic in your mind, so it was magic. So even if it's a trick, it's still magic. And so I was like, okay. And the more I thought about it, the more it made sense to me. And I started bringing more of that into my performance. And now, like in the show I do in Manhattan with my co-performer Carl Mercurio, my character believes in magic, and is unapologetically, almost, I always say that our show is sort of like if Doug Henning and Harry Anderson were in a show together, it'd sort of be like that. Because I believe in magic, kind of the way Doug Henning does, and he's sort of the trickster, like Harry Anderson. And so to me, there's like the two sides of the coin of magic. There's the trick and there's the belief. And I'd never seen a show like that before, and it's really worked out well for us. But it's all due to Eugene and his idea. And that's, of course, like a big thing at the Magic and Mystery School. Eugene at the beginning would say, we are not going to say the word trick at all for the next 5 days. We're all here together. We're going to talk about magic. We're not going to talk about trick. Nobody's going to say that word. And it was like, whoa, okay, all right, So it's a really cool philosophy, I think. Have you been to Mystery School before?
No, I haven't been to Mystery School.
Yeah.
No.
You might love it. It is definitely a very different experience, and and they do have these like major pros come in because as students in the class, not just to teach, but there are incredible teachers as well. But it's really more of like a chance to sort of workshop and to sort of just share magic secrets and just sort of really connect more to the mystery of magic and the magic of magic instead of the tricks of magic. So it's really a fascinating thing.
See, Doug Henning was before my time, but that's what all the old timers, all the people 10 years older than me, everybody says, I wanted to be like Doug because he believed in the magic. He brought that across the screen. And I'm from a different time. I grew up watching Copperfield every year, and I fell in love with Penn Teller as a teenager, but I didn't get it. I didn't understand it. But everybody is just still, no, that dude believed in magic.
He did. He was into transcendental meditation. He wanted to create a huge like theme park to teach people about transcendental meditation. So yeah, he was really he brought a spirituality, into his magic and just a sort of a sense of wonder and sort of a sense of you can do anything if you believe in magic. It's sort of a really cool idea. I love it.
That's awesome. So your coin act, do you trace it all the way back to your first trick? You said you dreamt up the act, but do you put the pieces together that you're famous for that coin routine, but your first trick was a coin trick?
It probably was. For my first few years in magic, all I wanted to do was coin magic. And part of it was because everyone has seen card tricks, and the great Uncle Bob has a really good card trick. Oh, you got to see my uncle. You could do the most amazing homing card routine in the world, and they're all blown away, and they go, yeah, but you haven't seen my Uncle Bob. Uncle Bob does Out of This World, for example, right? And
Right,
just
right,
everybody is destroyed at Thanksgiving. So, but hardly anybody has really seen coin magic close up.
right.
And there's something just purely magical about it when, even when you know how it's done and you're just watching somebody incredible like Rocco or someone just, vanishing and reappearing these coins, and you're just like, yeah, it's breathtaking. So I really wanted that. And so, yeah, I'm pretty sure that must be, I hadn't really thought about it too much until just now, but it must have come from that original love of just the beauty of that coin magic, and wanting to share that with the world, and wanted to take it somewhere that it hasn't been before, because everybody has seen the incredible aerial treasury with the coins and dropping them in the bucket, and Chris Capehart does it better than anybody. Jeff McBride does it. But to take that and say, now let's go with the credit cards and the bills and the gold bar, just take it to the extreme, yeah, I wanted to try to bring something else to it, right? So
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. And that gold bar at the end,
yeah,
I was like, wow. But that vanish of those coins, that's good.
yeah,
That
yeah,
that's the part that I was like, wow, that is really good. Yeah,
yeah.
I love
Thank you.
love it.
That stuff, to me, I was I met a guy when I was doing magic conventions and competitions around the world. A fellow named Bill Chung, who actually won first place in card magic for FISM in I think 2019. And I was having lunch with him once. We were at a magic convention in Italy, and I was sitting there with him, and I said, Bill, who is your greatest inspiration in magic? And I expected him, because he does a beautiful card act, I expected him to name, Di Vernon or Michael Skinner or, Daryl or somebody. But he goes, Harry Potter. I'm like, Harry Potter? And he goes, yeah, Harry Potter. And I'm like, why? And he goes, with Harry Potter, he would never have to take a coin and put it in this hand before it could disappear. It would just vanish. Just hold it and it's just gone. Boop, gone. And that's when I started thinking, oh man, that's really where I have to take this act. Is like, because I think in FISM especially, everybody wants to see the visual magic, the stuff that looks like camera tricks, but it's just live. And, you're just holding it in one moment and it's just gone the next, and there's no explanation. And so, you hear these things, and somebody plants a seed, and you never know. It's gonna grow and grow into something, right?
100%, man. Harry Potter came out, and everybody wanted me to do a wizard themed birthday party, and I'm like, I'm not dressing like a wizard for your birthday party. So I have a bias against Harry Potter, but I totally see the magic in that, where he's just saying, do the impossible. You don't put it in the other
Yeah.
hand. Do the impossible. Yeah.
Well, in our show, the Broadway Magic Hour in New York, one of the things I have learned and discovered is that people come to a magic show wanting to see beautiful visual eye candy magic. Okay, they don't want to think about how many red cards are in this packet, how many blue cards are in this packet, and remember that. They want to see the dancing hanky going all over the stage. They want to see the kid float up in the air, hoop gets past, and float back down. They want to see the rope routine where it's just like changing shapes and turning into a big circle. They want to see all this stuff that's visual. And I think they've been trained on Harry Potter. Honestly, I think that's where it comes from.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, especially this generation. Yeah.
Yep.
So, talk about Broadway Magic Hour. You and Carl met while you're performing magic at Coney. Is that right?
Exactly. When I was going out there doing my FISM act week after week after week, around 2014 and 15, I met him, and he is an unbelievable, legendary New York City cabaret performer. And he has the smoothest and slickest acts, and so funny. And he's one of these people who can connect with an audience in a very real and genuine, authentic way, almost the same way that a lot of like crowd work stand-up comics can, where they can just look at somebody, start talking to them, and just get to something really funny right there on the spot. And so many magicians have trouble with that. I certainly cannot do it, but I think that's why we make a great team. Is I'm doing all this sort of like eye candy visual magic, and then he comes out and he's doing this sort of like bam, 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 lighting the place up with humor, and getting everybody wound up with his. He does a die box routine. It's a die box masterpiece. Like I've never seen anybody get as much out of that. And as a worker, how the die box just kills, But oh my goodness, it's so funny just seeing people scream and yell and how he winds them up to such a degree. But yeah, I mean we met there at Magic at Coney. We really hit it off. And there was this theater out here in Long Island called the North Fork Community Theater, which community theaters always need to raise money. And I happen to know the person that runs the theater, and she was, whoa, and you really need a great fundraiser. And I said, how about me and my buddy Carl come in and just do an unbelievable family magic show for you guys? They were like, what? You would do that? So we ended up doing like 4 or 5 nights of a family magic show there, sold out every night. And we did it again the next year and the next. We ended up raising like $65,000 for the theater, which was incredible. And we loved it because we ended up putting together this beautiful act that we were then able to take, to Manhattan and put on the stage there, so it was a win-win. And, but Carl is he's one of a kind. And I'll say one other little thing about him, which makes it work for him and me as partners, is that we have very different vocal ranges. His voice is deeper than mine. He's much taller than me. So we look very different on stage. I think that's one of the ingredients. I mean, Penn and Teller obviously are great because they're super great magicians and entertainers, but there's also, they have height difference. They sound different. They look different. You never are confused who is who. And some 2-person acts I've seen, if it's two white guys together, it's like, which one are you? Sometimes they even dress alike, and you're like, well, who is? I can't remember who this is. So we have very different characters and we have very different looks, and so I think that also helps. Helps people understand the show a little better.
It said that your first show at Broadway Comedy Club, you admitted you didn't know whether you'd sell 10, 25, or 75 tickets, but then you sold 180. What did you do to sell those first 180 tickets?
All right. I'm embarrassed to say we did nothing. This is the.
That's a good problem to have. That's a fantastic problem.
This was an absolute need in New York City. There are probably 15 magic shows running in New York City right now, and I think all of them, except for ours, is late night, 21 and up, $250 a ticket, date night show, which. Beautiful. I've seen them all and I love them all. They're great. But there was not a ticket price starting at $25 going up to $50 maximum, right down the middle, unapologetic family magic show. We're not talking about, the poetic, what do you call it? What was the guy? Who was the guy? Anyway, there's a lot of these incredible shows. Urban Illusions, for example, very, very high concept, very poetic type of show with lots of layers of meanings. And we're just like, no, we're doing a magic show, and boy, did that take off. I mean, people love it. They know what it is. I think part of it too is that when you're trying to do magic just for adults, you sometimes have to convince adults that magic is for adults. There's a little bit of, you tell them, I'm going to do this is magic. They're like, oh, my 9-year-old loves magic. Well, no, leave your 9-year-old home. This is something else. We never have to say that. We're like, bring them, And we have so many grandparents, parents, and kids. We'll see 3 generations come in and sit together, which to me is amazing. When I saw Copperfield's show in Vegas a couple of years ago, that's exactly what it was. 8-year-olds, 40-year-olds, and 80-year-olds at the same table, And I'm like, wow, David Copperfield is the only magician who's ever become a billionaire. he probably knows something about this. And so I really appreciated that, and what we really differentiated ourselves by doing that. And it's been working ever since. We have now started marketing, but the first show we didn't really even have to do anything because people just wanted to come see it. The second show I was nervous. We better bring a lot of family and friends because who knows if this is going to last. Who knows if we'll be able to fill it up again. But again, it sold out. And then all of our family and friends were gone. And the third week was all strangers again, still sold out. And now we're in our third year, and it keeps going and going. But we've had some good luck with some media. Time Out New York came and covered the show and said it was one of the best magic shows in New York, one of the best off-Broadway shows for kids and families, which I thought there's like 4 shows they listed as best off-Broadway shows for kids and families, and none of the other ones are magic shows. So we were like, whoa. So that really helped. And things like that. We've gotten some local, TV spots and things like that. But the thing about a media market like New York is if you're on the local news channel, you're getting 10 million people are seeing it, so it's, you know what I'm saying? It's like almost like major national media, even though it's a local media market. So we've had so much fun doing that. And, they've got us booked through the end of the year and into next year, and we just an open run. So we're going to keep going as long as people want to see the show.
So how often do you change the show up?
It's interesting. If you came and saw the show a year ago and then saw it last weekend, you'd say, oh, I see a couple of different things. But we're not changing it all the time. And in fact, that was a big question we had when we started was, should we, because we think people might want to come back, should we keep adding new things and taking something out, adding something new? And every single week we do have people come in saying, this is Molly's third time. She insisted that we come again. This is her third time seeing the show. She's crazy about the show. And now she wants to be called up on stage if that's possible. We're like, okay, but what we found is that, so I have kids. You guys, you have a daughter. You have one daughter, right?
I have a daughter and identical twins now.
Excellent. Oh, beautiful. So your daughter likes to watch the same movie over and over. My kids wanted to watch Toy Story 25 times. So kids do like to see the same thing again and again. Plus, with a live show, it's a little different every time because you get different people up. They say different things happen, And the other thing I was thinking is when my wife and I went to see Hamilton on Broadway, we were so blown away. And we leave, and we said to our kids, you have to come see this. This is like the best thing ever. So when we brought them a few weeks later, if they had done a whole bunch of different song and dance numbers we hadn't seen before, I would have been upset. I'm like, no, do the thing about the room where it happens. We want to see that, You want to see what you loved. So we've kind of stuck to that, and it's been working really well for us. I mean, you must have repeat engagements year after year. Is that a different thing? Do they want something different every time, or do you do the same show or change some things? How do you do it?
At our resorts, we used to change it up 80% every single year. And then after doing it for 15 years, we found out that different people come every year. I didn't know that. I thought timeshare was you bought that week and July 4th, those same people showed up. No, that's not how it works. They can go to any of these timeshare places.
Yes, right.
I didn't know that until 15 years into it. So now I have 15 years of other tricks that I had changed out that I can put back in. Yeah.
It kept you on your toes.
I mean, school shows, things like that, I'm changing it up for the teachers because I know the kids love it. But they're the ones that book me, so I'm changing it up for them.
Right.
I mean, our show doesn't change 100%. We might add 1 or 2 new things.
Not unless they request it.
Yeah.
Like, we had you last year. Can you change the show? And you're like, oh,
yeah.
The show we're doing in West Virginia tomorrow, it's 5 hours away.
Yeah.
They asked for a new show this year. And we're like, yeah, we got that.
Wow.
So we talked about it on the way here. We're like, all right, we'll pick that trick. It's a new show to them.
There you go. Exactly.
It's stuff we've done thousands of times, but it's new to them. They haven't seen it.
One of my magic buddies said to me, because we've done this show hundreds of times now at the Broadway Magic Hour, and he goes, don't you get sick of doing the same tricks every? And I'm like, dude, no. In fact, the more you do the trick, the more fun it is to do because you find that little extra moment or that thing somebody yelled out one time that was so funny, and you find a way to bring that in every time. It's like you're always improving it and always, coming up with some different tweak or something. But you can't do that unless you've done the trick hundreds of times.
Right.
You know, it's because the first few times you do it, you're just trying to get through it without blowing it. You know, and later you're trying to just make it a 0.5% better here and a 0.5% better there, and just as perfect as it can be. So.
And once
but
it becomes muscle memory, then you can play with the audience way more than you could the first 50 times you did it.
Totally.
Yeah.
I always think about it like kind of like off-roading, where you've got your highway and you can pull off and do some donuts in the dirt over here and then just get back on the highway and keep going. Because you know right where the highway is. When you're ready to get back on, it's there for you to go back to, you know?
So I have a degree in marketing, so I'm thinking marketing-wise and having a show every Saturday and Sunday. How do you keep the marketing fresh for your show?
It's, you know, Instagram and Facebook are where it's funny. At first we were just focusing on Instagram, but then I found that a lot of the grandparents are on Facebook. You know, I mean, it's sort of like, and we have so many grandparents bringing kids. It's amazing. But so for, you know, what we find is it takes a combination of a whole bunch of different things, obviously. But the great thing about a city like New York is it's like a big beating heart, pulling in fresh people every single weekend from all over the world, all over the country. And which is another thing that some of our friends who have magic theaters in areas around the country, they may not have that same sort of level of intensity of foreign tourists or other any tourists coming in and out, which makes it harder. In New York, you know, we find that probably half of our house are people from the state of New York, not even just New York City, but like the state. Probably, you know, of that half of them are New York City people, and the other half are from New York State, and then the other entire half of the house are from outside of, you know, some other state or some other country. And we don't have a lot of we never have a language barrier. I used to perform at this one place called LOL Comedy Club years ago, and there you would go in there, and it would, I don't know how often you've been on like a subway in New York City, but in the LOL Comedy Club, it was basically like, imagine just the people right off the subway, because so many of them did not speak English. I would try to do a book test, and I'm realizing, oh my gosh, at least let me pick somebody who speaks English, you know, because otherwise they can't read it, and they're going to be embarrassed, and I'm going to be embarrassed. Let's just find the right person. But we don't really have that issue. It seems like they know what they're getting into, and you know, they're coming more from seeing Instagram or Facebook, and so they see that we're speaking English. I think at the LOL Comedy Club there were they had guys out in Times Square like selling tickets to people that were walking around, and so you're just kind of getting these random people, and so we don't really have that. It's
Arch filling the house to sell drinks.
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
Arch is filling the house to sell drinks.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. At our show, the 2-drink minimum, which is typical at a comedy club, is waived. They do sell drinks, they sell snacks, they sell, you know, sometimes we'll even see, you know, adults at 2 p.m., you know, drinking beer with their kids, whatever. It's fine. The kids don't drink the beer, the adults might. But they're all snacking on popcorn and hot dogs and, you know, drinking Cokes and having a great time. And you know, it works out for the club, it works out for us. And but yeah, as far as the marketing goes, it's pretty basic stuff, you know. I think everybody kind of does everybody finds out about everything on the you know, we'll ask them after the show, how'd you find out about the show? They usually just say, oh, we found you online.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that means, but it usually means Facebook or Instagram.
Right. Oh, wow. Dude, this hour flew by. This was so awesome. Thank you for coming on, Jim. I don't even know. I mean, it just flew by. I have another whole page and a half of notes, man. We'll have to look back. Thank you for doing it.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.
You know, talking to a magician, it's just easy. It's easy. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you.
We all go through the same things, and we all want to hear how the other guy does it. So, yeah.
Yeah, man. So, Broadway Magic Hour, is it BroadwayMagicHour.com?
That's correct. And also our socials are at Broadway Magic Hour. So, look us up online. And next time you guys come to New York, let me know. We'd love to have you come.
That would be awesome.
We'll be there. I'll bring all 3 kids. Yeah. So,
awesome.
Saturday and Sunday?
Yes, Saturdays and Sundays, 2 p.m. Be there or be square.
You're the best, man. I think the only thing we have left to say is see you next week.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Check us out online at wesiseli.com and patreon.com/Wes _Iseli for behind-the-scenes videos, blooper videos, never-before-seen footage, discounts on merchandise, magic trick tutorials, and more. That's Wes Iseli, spelled Wesiseli.